What's up, guys? So, I was finishing my morning walk and stopped by the local restaurant, got me something. Well, stopped by the gas station, got me something to drink. As I was driving, I'm listening to the radio, and I heard one of the mayors talk about. I don't even know if I can use that word. She was talking about people vandalizing the city. Okay. Hold that thought. It's hot out here. I was thirsty. So anyway, she's talking about how people were vandalizing the city, and she can understand their anger, but they cannot vandalize the city. Now, last night I was watching YouTube, and I saw a video response to the looting in Atlanta, and that mayor was also talking about how people are vandalizing the city. And in both cases, they were quoting, well, they weren't really quoting Martin Luther King, but they were saying how they're not bringing any justice to the situation, and that they're not honoring the memory of Martin Luther King. Oh, okay. So, as I'm going through my feed last night, I come across this other video from a YouTuber, and he inserted part of a clip from a speech that Martin Luther King gave. Okay. In the speech, Martin Luther King Jr. talks about how he deplores looting and rioting. He basically says it makes no sense to destroy public property because at the end of the day, these people in government are not going to give you what you want. In fact, they're going to look at you worse than they already was thinking about you. They already don't like you. So making a big deal out of your people getting killed and rioting and picketing is useless. So that's how I feel these mayors were putting it out there. Like, government officials already don't like you. They've never responded to what your pleas are. So why are you rioting? Why are you looting? It's not going to do anything. But at the same time, they're saying, well, you do have a right to protest. It's almost like they're saying, well, we don't want you protesting because it ain't going to do a damn thing. But at the same time, that is your constitutional right to assemble and protest. Oh, wow. So, in response to that, I looked up the video recording for the speech that Martin Luther King gave. Matter of fact, if I can pull it up, on the phone. Let me see. I can't remember my code. Okay. Hopefully it'll play. Now this is a recording of the excuse me. This is a recording of the original speech that Martin Luther King gave.
Still convinced that non-violence is the most potent weapon available to oppress people in their struggle for freedom and justice. I feel that violence will only create more social problems than they will solve. That in a real sense it is impractical for the Negro to even think of mounting a violent revolution in the United States. So I will continue to condemn riots and continue to say to my brothers and sisters that this is not the way. Continue to affirm that there is another way. But at the same time, it is as necessary for me.
Okay, so you heard what he said. He is condemning rioting. Now, any public officials would say, see, I told you, even Martin Luther King said it's useless to riot. Why do you even do it? It's senseless. You're just creating more damage to a situation that's already bad. Somebody once said, if you're gonna quote it, quote the whole damn thing. So, right now I'm thinking, do I want to say what I want to say after I finish this or before? Let's just finish it.
To be as vigorous in condemning the conditions which cause persons to feel that they must engage in riotous activities as it is for me to condemn riots. I think America must see that riots do not develop out of thin air. Certain conditions continue to exist in our society, which must be condemned as vigorously as we condemn riots. But in the final analysis, a riot is the language of the unheard. What is it that America has failed to hear? It has failed to hear that the plight of the Negro poor has worsened over the last few years. It has failed to hear that the promises of freedom and justice have not been met. And it has failed to hear that large segments of white society are more concerned about tranquility and the status quo than about justice, equality, and humanity. And so in a real sense, our nation's summers of riots are caused by our nation's winters of delay. And as long as America postpones justice, we stand in the position of having these recurrences of violence and riots over and over again. Social justice and progress are the absolute guarantors of riot prevention.
Okay. All right, boys and girls. So what have we learned? Martin Luther King gave a speech on rioting where he condemned riots, did not like riots. He said it was useless to riot. But at the same time, in the same speech, he also addressed the situation that the riot itself didn't just come out of thin air. Certain conditions had to happen for people to get so frustrated that they start tearing up property. rioting, looting. See, American politicians are quick to react, but not to act. You know, Mayor Lightfoot is a black woman. The mayor of Atlanta is a black woman. You want to quote Martin Luther King, but in this video, I just played the whole speech. He said there's a reason why people are frustrated to the point where they're rioting. Because the conditions, the unfair conditions that caused the riot, that's why they riot. And he also said that as long as those conditions are not addressed, the riots are going to happen again. And since Martin Luther King died, how many riots have we had throughout the country? Yeah, think about that. He said he condemns riots. It's useless to riot. But he understood why people rioted. Because you're not listening. Mayor of Atlanta, you're not listening. Mayor of New York, you're not listening. You all are acting like this is something that's been happening just since you got into administration. But this has been going on longer than you've been mayors of your respective towns. Okay? This has been going on. This is one of the things that Martin Luther King himself was fighting for. And you all were probably, what, young teenagers, young kids? So, I'm thinking Martin Luther King was right. But if you're gonna bring up the memory of Martin Luther King, then you really need to listen to the whole speech. He's condemning the actions, the situations that lead up to a riot. If you are a black woman, a black man in a position of power, and you know the history of the Negroes, American Negroes, you can't just sit on your behind and do nothing and wait until something like this happens and then you want to call out the police, call out the National Guard. Now you want to react instead of acting. What you scared of? Your boss? Why don't you do a peaceful protest? Why don't all the black politicians get together and protest? Because you had mothers, you had fathers, you had grandparents, you had cousins, great aunts, and uncles that were involved in those civil rights movements. Or your family knew somebody that was involved in those civil rights movements. So, this affects all of us. And it always has. You can't keep telling people to stay home. Don't go out and riot. That's wrong. That's the problem with America now, is because every time black people, every time Negroes say we have a problem and we go to our prospective leadership, community leaders, state leaders, city leaders, oh, we'll take care of it. We'll look into it. Years go by and y'all don't do a damn thing. People are sick and tired of being told to just wait it out. If you want real change, vote. You can vote that. Voting is on a system. The voting system only happens so many years out of a decade. So you want 50 or 60 people to get violently killed, brutally killed by police until voting season is in, right? You want us to wait 2 years, 4 years. Meanwhile, the police are doing whatever they want to do because the government elected officials will not step up and make the police accountable for their actions. That is the problem. The problem ain't the citizens. See, that's the fallout. That's the result of the problem. The problem is the governors. The problem is the mayors. Get off your butts and hold these police accountable, and you won't have the riots. You want to stop the riots? When you hear that an innocent person, and I say innocent in the sense that these people didn't deserve the punishment that they got, you as a councilman or woman, you as a mayor, you as a governor, do an investigation, find out that the cop was crooked, have them arrested, do whatever legal thing you got to do, and go from there. But to know that these cops are crooked and nobody says anything, nobody arrests them. There have been cases where innocent black people have been in jail for 20 years and then get released because technology says, DNA says they didn't do it. But when it comes to an officer, a crooked police officer, y'all don't want to move a muscle. You won't press charges. You won't arrest the officer, but you want to complain about how wrong it is for people who are outraged, people who have been belittled. You want to come up against them. I know you're upset, but that's no reason for you to burn down police stations. I know you're upset, but that's no reason for you to looting. How is looting going to bring him back? Yes, you're right. You are absolutely right. Looting is not going to bring those people back. But if you have 4 different incidents, you have 3 to 4 different incidents in less than 6 months, you really want us to believe that you think the best thing for people to do is to stay home and wait until election day to do something? You as a mayor, you as a governor, because we through with the president. We're not even talking about him. He's an idiot. Everybody inside and outside of America knows how the United States government treats their dark-skinned citizens. If you have a position of power, you're supposed to protect the citizens of your state. You're supposed to protect the citizens of your city. So when you let a police officer sit up here and do what they do, given you know the history, you don't need a college education to know the history of the Negro in America. Shame on you. Stop reacting and act. You know the history. What's your purpose? What's the purpose of you even becoming what's the purpose of you being in a leadership position if you're not going to protect all citizens? Really? You just gonna say, oh well, yeah, I know my people are dying left and right, but hey, that's not why I got in office. I got in office because I wanted to make some money to feed my family. Don't everybody else want to feed their family? Look, man, I'm going to keep posting videos. until I see change. And I hope I'm not the only person out here that's trying to make change. But I also know that there are people in power, people who have a bigger platform than I do, that can really make change. The police chief is in charge of the police department, but the mayors and the governors are in charge of them. So, if the president is not going to step in and help out with the situation, treat it like COVID-19, the governors are responsible for what happens to their state. If you fix the freaking problem that's been going on since before Martin Luther King died, you wouldn't have riots. It's that simple. It really is. You want to stop the riots? It's not about calling out the National Guards. It's about holding the police accountable. When you get off your butt and do that, then we can talk. I'll chat with y'all later.